Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be smashing various types of cake with our feet. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong page I had there. So actually today we're doing the 2K sub special, which is the Stug. So we hit 2K subscribers a few days ago, and I just want to say thank you to you guys. Thank you for your continued watching and tuning into the channel. And your continued comments and just everything. I really appreciate it. I didn't think the channel was going to go this quickly. I just assumed for the first year I was going to have like 100 people watching me, or no one. 100 or less is kind of what I was thinking. But now, less than a year, we're at 2K, so I'm super thankful. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be doing the Stug. This is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do because I am going to be mixing externals in with the Stug. So we're going to try to boost the Stug up as much as we possibly can. So we have the top commenter of the last video, Sharkbite Arcturus, and the first commenter of the last video, Heya Bellionis. And he's kind of on a spree. He's on like a 2 or 3 video spree for first commenter. So I don't know. We'll see if he'll retain the title. So let's go over the Stug here. Alright, the Stug is a secondary weapon. It's going to fire these globules, and the globules are going to stick to whatever it hits, and that's also including teammates. So it'll be teammates, enemies, the floor, the ceiling, the wall, whatever. Whatever you hit, they're going to stick to. And then they're going to do 2 ticks of damage, and then after 1.5 seconds, they will explode and do radial damage. Let's go into the build here. And I want to continue to talk about interesting and unique things about the Stug, because for a weapon that is not very good, it is extremely complicated. I have like an entire laundry list of weird interactions and the UI that's not like appropriate or bugged. So we'll start with the Stug having innate corrosive. You get corrosive on the weapon without having to do anything. Okay. Next, the weapon says it has 0% status chance. And that's true for the hit and for the 2 dot ticks. So when you shoot and then the 2 dot ticks, there's 0% status chance. But the explosion that happens after that 1.5 second embed time actually has a 10% status chance. That's just not displayed here. Let me see here. Firing blobs. They stick, they do 2 ticks of dot damage, we already know that, and then they explode in a 0.3 to 3 meter radius. So that can be increased by just shooting the blobs at the same blob on the target. It'll just increase the size of that blob. And that's also going to be increasing the damage additively as well. So each blob added increases damage by 100% and stacks additively up to 10 times. Alternate fire fires 1 big blob for 6 ammo. However, the alternate fire is extremely slow to charge up. So you would, to actually make use of the alternate fire, you would need like every fire rate mod in the game on this weapon, and it would still probably be slow. So I don't recommend shooting the alternate fire. It also has kind of like weird interactions with multi-shot, where like normally if your multi-shot is letting you shoot an extra bullet, it'll go from 1 to 2. And if like, you know, your alternate fire is shooting 2 bullets, it'll go from 2 to 4. Like, you know, 100% multi-shot kind of doubles what you get. Well, with the Stug and the alternate fire, it just acts as if it was the primary shot. So the alternate fire shot shoots 6 blobs, but it's only going to add 1 extra with 100% multi-shot. So it would be 7 blobs. So there's not a big reason to actually alternate fire with the Stug because of that. Blob impact and blob dot, the 2 dot ticks don't trigger status effects. I think we already said that. And the status chance is 10% on radial. Yeah, we said that already. Okay, I could put my little paper away here, and I think we should be able to go over the mods next. Also, I just want you to notice that it does have a very bad critical chance. And even the status chance on the explosion being 10%, that's still pretty bad as well. So 5% crit chance and 10% status chance. Really bad. All right, galvanized diffusion we're going to be using for multi-shot. Lethal Torrent we're going to be using for fire rate and multi-shot. Primed Expel Orokin we're going to be using for a faction damage mod for multiplicative damage. I normally don't like using faction damage mods, but because this is a special video and the Stug needs all the help it can get, we're going to be using a faction damage mod, and we're using the Orokin because we're going to do Steel Path Mott. Hornet Strike for flat damage. Prime Target Cracker for critical damage. Now, we're not using a critical chance mod, we're using a critical damage mod. And let me explain this a little bit. And most like mid and late game players will probably understand what I'm saying here. But there might be some early players or some mid game players that don't fully understand this yet. There are different ways critical can be applied. There is additively, multiplicatively, final crit, all kinds of weird ways. Normally, let me type in critical. We would use a mod called Creeping Bullseye, which is 200% crit chance. Well, this is like multiplying your crit. So this would be 200% of your really crappy crit of 5. So 200% of 5 is 10%, which would leave you at the end with a 15% critical chance. That's pretty bad. That's still pretty bad, and that you would have to use an entire mod slot for that. So multiplicative crit on this weapon is not very good. But there are a few different ways to get final crit in the game. And final crit just adds a larger crit chance value that just gets plopped on top of whatever your crit chance ends up being after mods. So mods do not affect final crit. So let's talk about like Adarza Kavat. Adarza Kavat has a mod that gives you 60% final crit. Now that mod is not up 100% of the time. It doesn't have 100% uptime, unfortunately. But when it's up, that 60% final crit will just get plopped on top of this 5%, and it'll be 65% critical chance. We're going to be using Harrow as well. Harrow, his is a little bit more complicated, and I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. I believe his final crit is different between headshots and body shots. I think the body shots, it can go up to a 50% final crit, and the headshots can go up to a 200% final crit. So again, that's just 50 or 200% plopped on top of your critical chance. There's a popular arcane that people use called Arcane Avenger. Arcane Avenger is another source of final crit. It's just 45% plopped on top of whatever your critical chance is. So final crit is a good way to, I mean, it's good for everything. It's even good for crit weapons, but for status weapons, it's really good because it gives them the opportunity to actually crit when they have really, really bad crit chance values. And I'm stretching it calling the Stug a status weapon because the Stug status is also garbage. But yeah, so it's going to help the Stug actually get good crit values, crit chance values. Now the crit multiplier on the Stug is pretty average. So we don't, it's okay. The crit multiplier is fine. So that's why we're going to go with crit damage here. We're going to increase that crit multiplier even further. And then when we do get those crit chance buffs from those externals, the crit multiplier will be working on them. Okay, so enough about that. Let's talk about status next. We're going to have 3 different status mods next here. And we're going to use all of the 60/60s. So we have the 60/60 Cold, the 60/60 Toxin, which is going to make Viral, and then we use the 60/60 Heat to make Heat. So Viral Heat. Let me explain status a little bit further, just for people that don't know. Status is a little bit more of a dice roll. So with all of these 60/60s, so our base is 10%. Again, it says 0, but it's 10% on the explosion part of the attack. So 60, 60, 60, that's 180. Let's just say 200 for a nice even number. 200% of 10% is 20%, which would mean a total of like 30% status chance at the end. But again, a little bit less than that, probably more like 27-ish%. 27% status is okay. I mean, it's good enough to have like a viral on the weapon. I'm going to cough real quick. I'm sorry. It's good enough to have like viral on the weapon. So that's why we go with all the 60/60s here, because we really need to pump up that status chance to like to at least a usable value. 27% is still usable, so that's okay. Now, let me explain how status chance works. So it's kind of like a dice roll. So you have a 27% chance on a shot. So like about a 1 in 4 shots, like every 4 shots is going to do a dice roll, and it's going to choose one of these statuses. And the status it chooses is going to be dependent. It's going to be random, but kind of. It's random, but it's going to be like leaning towards whatever is the higher values. So you see our over here, our viral is 288, which is the highest value. So it's more likely going to pick viral, but 240 is pretty close for our corrosive too. So it's going to pick corrosive once in a while as well. So most likely to pick viral, pretty often going to pick corrosive, and it's once in a while going to pick heat. Heat's not weighted as well as corrosive or viral. Now, when you have a low status chance weapon, the most impactful status, this is a little bit more dependent on like faction you're going against, but for most factions, the most impactful status you can have is viral. And it's because viral, if we read here, viral increases damage to health up to 325% with multiple stacks, so that's at 10 stacks for a short duration. Now, what it does not say is that the very first stack of viral counts as 100%. Every other stack of viral is only a 25% increase, but the very first stack is 100%. So if you have a low status weapon and you're not producing a lot of statuses, all you need is 1 stack. All you need is 1 stack of viral, and you get 100% damage to health, which is a huge buff. So viral is a very easy choice to go on the weapon here. We're going to go with heat also, just because it gives us the status chance as well, and we don't mind a heat proc once in a while. Now, honestly, if I could go back and I could remake this weapon, I would just remove corrosive. I don't think corrosive is... I think it's actually hurting us, because it's diluting the pool where we can actually get viral procs, which would be more impactful, or heat procs for some dot damage as well. So, sometimes a weapon having an innate is not always a good thing. Like in this case with the Stug, probably not that great of a thing. Alrighty. So we're going to have the Eggsless next with Lethal Momentum. Lethal Momentum is going to give us projectile speed. Projectile speed is going to... These little like droplets or globules, whatever you're going to call them, they kind of drop after a little bit. So Lethal Momentum lets them shoot quicker, so they drop a little bit farther out. So you'll be a little bit better at medium-ish ranges, kind of. For the Arcane, we're going to go with Secondary Merciless. Secondary Merciless is going to give us a 360% flat damage increase and 30% reload speed. I also considered going with Secondary Shiver. This is enemies take 45% damage per cold status. So instead of doing a viral heat, we would do a viral cold, which you actually can't do. So you wouldn't be able to go viral, unfortunately. But like, let's say you could go cold. Even on this weapon, because it has low status chance, like you're not stacking cold. It's not like you can stack cold at 10. You're going to be maybe getting 1 or 2 cold stacks. So not really worth going Secondary Shiver. And plus, I want viral on the weapon. So that's why we're going to go with Merciless. Merciless is kind of boring, but it works. Alrighty. So that's how you build a Stug if you're going to plan to use externals. Sevagoth Prime access begins August 21st. Interesting. I didn't even know he was the next Prime. There was someone in the comments, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, whoever you were, with Sevagoth Prime. But there was someone in the comments that was like, oh, maybe you can do a Sevagoth Prime build because he's coming out next. And I didn't know that. So he was the first one that said that. And then this just came across my screen here. So, yeah. I don't keep up with anything. My wife does, Pepper. Pepper she watches all the Prime Times, the dev streams. She's the one that tells me about all the stuff. And I guess she was lacking on that this time. So, okay, let's talk about some externals that we're going to be mixing with this godly weapon of the Stug. So we're going to be doing this on a Harrow. Harrow has a few different externals that mix pretty well with the Stug. So if we go on it here, Harrow's 2 Penance is going to increase our fire rate and our reload speed, which is kind of nice. And his 4 Covenant, this is the one that gives us final critical. Again, I can't remember the exact values. I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. I think it's like 50% on body shots and 200 on heads. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Also, we're going to be using Pillage. I was thinking maybe Pillage could be a little bit cheaty. Like, I wasn't sure if I should use Pillage or not, but my Harrow is a Shield Harrow, and Shield Harrow needs to cast Pillage often to stay alive. So that I have to use Pillage, and it's also going to be helping the Stug because it's going to be stripping enemies. So I'm going to keep it on. I don't know. Maybe you'll consider it being a little bit cheaty using Pillage, but we'll keep it on. I'm going to be using Arcane Avenger in the Arcane slot here for 21% chance for a 45% critical chance. This is final critical, so this works really well. Normally here I have Molt Augmented, and I think that's how I full strip with Harrow. I think normally my particular Harrow, I think, doesn't full strip right away, so I guess we'll see in the gameplay. It might need like 2 Pillages to full strip without Molt Augmented, but for this particular video, I just plop Molt Augmented off and I put Arcane Avenger here. Just because we're trying to bump that Stug up. Okay, primary weapons. We're going to be mixing the Stug with the Mutalist Quanta. This thing is weird. If you thought the Stug was confusing, well, the Mutalist Quanta is also confusing. So, this shoots normally. It's like a rifle that shoots normally. It's kind of meh, whatever. But it has an alternate fire that fires giant infested levitating doo-doo balls. And if you shoot through those giant infested levitating doo-doo balls, you get 25% crit chance, 25% crit damage, and 100% electric that doesn't mix with other elements. So it won't be mixing like let's say with our heat. But it does decrease the base damage of shots going through it. So there's some positives and some negatives. You get more crit. From the tooltips and the wiki, it seems like both of those crit values, the crit chance and the crit damage, are final values. Like they don't get affected by mods, which is fine. That's great for this weapon. So that's why we're mixing the Stug with the Mutalist Quanta. Again, it does reduce base damage by a little bit. I think it's like 33% it reduces it. I think you're only doing 66% of your normal base damage shooting through it, through the doo-doo balls. But you'll see me once in a while in the gameplay shoot a doo-doo ball and throw some Stug shots through it. Again, very interesting weapon. I'm not actually going to be using this to do damage. I'm only going to be alternate firing it. If you want to see an actual Mutalist Quanta build, let me know. And I can do a deeper dive and get more information in a proper actual build for the Mutalist Quanta. But for now, I'm just going to be alternate firing it and just banking on that little extra crit chance, crit damage, and that weird electric status that it gives. All right. Furax Wraith is going to be for this mod right here. Amalgam Furax Body Count. This gives us a 45% fire rate to secondary weapons. So this is a fire rate mod for your Stug that goes on your Furax Wraith. You can kind of save a mod slot. We're going to be mixing the Stug with the Matarai Focus School so we can get a little bit extra damage. And for a pet, we're going to be mixing our Stug with the Adarza Kavat. So Adarza Kavat, if we go in here, has a mod called Cat's Eye. This is the one that is the 60% increased critical chance for 10 seconds to allies within 25 meters. So this is a final critical thing that gets added on top of your crit. So this is about, I want to say it's like a 1/3 uptime, because it's a 10-second buff every 20 seconds, but it only starts refreshing after the buff ends. So I think that, I'm not good at math, but I think it's like a 1/3 uptime-ish. Darza Kavat is also going to be giving us Tenacious Bond, which is going to increase our critical damage, final critical damage on our Stug. So that is all the things we're mixing there. Now, I pre-recorded the video for the gameplay just because I am a horrible multitasker, and Harrow is not a brain-dead frame. He actually requires like rotations of abilities that you need to press in order. If you don't press buttons in a certain order, you will just die on Harrow. So I was trying to like commentate while I was doing the gameplay, and it was horrible. This is like the 4th time I'm doing this video. So finally I just recorded the video with the gameplay, and I'll just talk over it and I'll answer questions. So that's what we're going to be doing. I have a few questions that people have asked in the comment sections, and while the gameplay is going for the Stug, I'll answer these here. So we should, I think, be ready to switch over to the gameplay. So the screen might turn black for about a second, but then I'll be here still. All right, here we go. All right, I am still here, and that's me and my pre-recorded gameplay. I'm going to be shooting the Quanta first, just to show those big infested balls. And those are the ones that if you shoot through them, you get some buffs. And debuffs with the flat damage. So, it's not always going to be good, but, it's a possibility that it could increase your weapon.
They have just shut down all systems.
All right. So, for the first question, we have from Sharkbite Acturus. He asks, how did you get into Warframe? And I got into Warframe a long time ago. I want to say 7-ish years ago I got into Warframe. And I was... my friend had gotten me into Warframe. And he was a Saren main. And he had already been playing Warframe. And he was max level on Saren. He had like all the mods. He was a very good Saren player. And all he wanted to do was Hydron. He just wanted to do Hydron over and over and over. And me being a new Warframe player, I assumed that's what Warframe was. It was just sitting in the middle of the map, watching another person nuke the map and basically not ever getting to shoot. And so I thought Warframe was horrible when I first got into it. I was like, this is boring. Like, this is garbage. And we weren't doing Steel Path either. I don't know when Steel Path came out exactly, but when I came back to the game eventually, Steel Path was out. But we weren't doing Steel Path at the time either, so it was very easy content, and I was like, I don't really understand the point of this. And so I only played Warframe for about 6 months with him, and he was a very nice person, but just his intro into Warframe for me was not very good. So I put Warframe down because I didn't really like that playstyle. And I came back to Warframe about 4 years ago, and I came back by myself. I without him. I think he had gone on to play different games and whatnot. And I just did the other pieces of content that I didn't do at that time. I wasn't just doing Hydron over and over again. I was, doing the story. I was farming for resources for different Warframes. I learned about Steel Path. I unlocked Steel Path. And after that, I really loved Warframe. I love collecting things. I love games that, have collections or things you can collect and grind for. I love grinding. I'm not a person that likes to buy things. Most of the things in the game I have grinded for. There are a few select things that after months and months or even years, I finally gave in and I bought. Like, I think it was the Glaive Prime blueprint I actually bought. The Bratton Vandal blueprint I bought, and the Lado Vandal barrel I bought. Because those 3 items I had spent actual years just passively trying to get, and I had never gotten. So I had to bite the bullet and get those items. But most of the time I do try to grind for everything. I really like that aspect of the game. And that's kind of what got me into Warframe. I like co-op games too. I love playing with other people. I play multiplayer almost exclusively. I don't like playing by myself. So, yep. Alright. Now, Sharkbite Acturus, his second question was, what is your go-to loadout for everyday content? And currently, my go-to loadout is my Rhino Prime. I've been playing Rhino Prime pretty consistently for the past year, maybe even more than a year. He is a very easy Warframe. There's a few different ways to build Rhino. There's kind of like a meme way to build Rhino, where you get very high levels of Overguard. And then there's the basic support Rhino. I play the basic support Rhino. My Overguard is not like a million like the meme build. But for my support Rhino, he's at like 30,000 Overguard-ish most of the time. And I just recast it when I need it. And for support Rhino, he's very comfortable to play. He doesn't take a lot of brain work like Harrow does. So he's a good frame if you just want to log on, you want to do your weeklies or dailies, turn your brain off, maybe just chat with people in Discord. Rhino is so nice. So he's been my dude that I've played for about a year and a half now. Before that, I was a Necros main. I was a Necros main for about 2 years, and for those 2 years, I only played Necros. The only time I played other Warframes was to level them. I played Necros every other minute of the game, and it got to the point where, I mean, I still like Necros, but I don't want to play him anymore because I played him so much. And I think it comes... the reason I wanted to play Necros was because I am a farmer. I like grinding. I like collecting things. I like farming things. And in my head, like when I came back to Warframe, I'm like, well, what is the best frame to collect things and get resources? Well, it's Necros. And so that's why I just played him for like 2 years straight until I couldn't stand him anymore. Then I'm like, oh, I don't want to see this frame anymore. Again, not because he's bad, just because I have so much time on him that I want to play other frames now. And then his other question was level cap. For level cap, I do different things. I don't do a lot of level cap. I've done level cap a few times. It's fun, but it is like an entire day project that you're hoping that your power doesn't go out. Or your cat shuts your computer off, which happens. He jumps on my desktop and will press my power button. When I do level cap, I do a lot of invisibility frames. I'll do it like on Loki, Avara. I have another invisibility frame that I can't think of. Ash, there he is. Loki, Avara, Ash. I like the invisibility frames for level cap. They're kind of like brain dead easy frames for level cap. You could also do Revenant. Revenant's another brain dead easy for level cap. I can take my Rhino to level cap, but it's not fun. So my Rhino is a health and armor build, and health and armor scales up until like level 4 to 5,000. When you're at like level 4 to 5,000, enemies start doing so much damage that your health and armor is really only giving you like 2-shot protection. So you would have the 0.5 second gate from the overguard. You would have a little bit of gate from whatever your shield is, and then like your actual health value, maybe a 2-shot, but yeah, so health and armor, like, I love health and armor frames, but for level cap, you're kind of stuck doing shield gate or invisibility. Or if a frame has another source of survivability, like Revenant is Mesmer Shield, for instance. So level cap, I'll usually stick to the invisibility frames or Revenant. But I have not done a Void Cascade level cap though yet. That is supposedly one of the quicker ones to get to. The reason I don't like doing level cap very often is because for survival it takes 8 to 9 hours, and for disruption, I know there's like speedrunners that go in groups and they pick a very specific map and they can do it in an hour. But like if you just queue up like a Lua Apollo, you're not doing that in an hour. That's a 3 or 4 hour to get to level cap. And so like those are entire day projects. And so I will do those few and far between. All right. Next question we have coming from Shaquem Simmons. And he asks, what Warframe and Companion do you want to see reworked? Well, I'll start with the Companions because I know exactly what I want to see reworked. I want to see Kubros and Predasites reworked. And I think the best way to rework them is to give them a crit chance of 20%. Just right off the bat, give them a crit chance of 20%. If they have a crit chance of 20... Because some of them have interesting abilities. Some of them... they have interesting abilities, but because they don't have a crit chance that allows them to use Tenacious Bond... Like that, when the Bond mods came out, Tenacious Bond is extremely powerful. And their crit chance doesn't allow you to use Tenacious Bond. You know, if you mix Bite... So, for anyone that doesn't know, if you put Bite on Kavats, on any of the like pet companions, you can get Tenacious Bond to work because they have a higher starting critical. But Predasites and Kubros you can't. Hounds maybe too, although Hounds are really powerful in their own right. So... but Kubros and Predasites, like they just need a 20, give them 20% crit, and then all of a sudden Tenacious Bond will work, and then you can start looking at their other abilities and maybe, you know, buffing or leaving them as is. Like, some of them have cool abilities, but they need an ability that's cool plus some of the OP stuff like Tenacious Bond. For Warframes that I want to see rework, oh man, that's a good question. I hated the Grendel rework. So after I played Necros for like 2 years, I was a Grendel main. In between Rhino and Necros, I was a Grendel main for like 6 months. And I loved Grendel. And then they reworked Grendel, and I hated him. I absolutely hated him. He could suck entire rooms of dudes off in one go. I mean, that was his thing. He was not only the best shield gator, because, well, at that time, low shields was really good. So he had a base of 75 shields, so he was a really good shield gator. And he could health gate, because if you had dudes in your stomach and you were using Gloom, if you died, you wouldn't actually die. You would just throw your dudes up, and then you would be at full health, and you could just repeat the process. So he kind of like shield gated and health gated, and he could hold so many dudes in him that he got 2,000 armor, and 2,000 armor makes it where you don't have to actually use armor mods, because 2,000 is kind of like the magic number where diminishing returns start to suck. So, like, you don't want any armor over 2,000, definitely. Like, 2,000 is 90%. You don't want anything over that. Now, he can't get to 2,000 armor with, like, the max dudes in his stomach, so now he has to use armor mods. He can't suck entire rooms of dudes off. I mean, what the hell? You know? So, like, that's a big gripe that I have. I'm probably the only person that thinks that, though, because no one played Grendel back then, and guess what? After the rework, no one still plays Grendel. Okay, I think our little video is almost done there. It should just go to black, and then it'll be me and my orbiter. We'll see here. There's me waving. There we go. Okay, I'm back in my orbiter here. All right, let's get through the next few questions here. We're almost done, though. We're almost done. We got one more question here. This is from JCaps, or JCaps5. I don't know if this was actually like an actual question or if he was just saying this, but I agree with him. So he said, can we remake melees to make sense? He said hammers for slams, fists and daggers for high single target damage. I agree with that. I think melees need a little bit more of an identity, and I think stances are a big part of that too. Like, a lot of the stances are absolute garbage. Like, most of the time when it comes to melee weapons, you go to the simulacrum and you have to go through all the stances and you pick through all of the garbage combos, and you try to find one combo that is somewhat usable to spam. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. And I think it's because, you know, a lot of the combos are nice and they're pretty, and I think DE knows that. They're like, oh, look at all these cool, pretty combos we put in. But the thing is, like, the pretty combos aren't always fluid combos. People like fluid, feel-good combos when they use melee weapons. They don't want to backflip, do spirit fingers in the air, and, you know, stab through their legs or something weird like that. They just want fluid combos, which are kind of boring, and that's probably why DE doesn't want to add them. So, yeah, I agree with him there. I do like the Tennokai rework, though. I really do like Tennokai, but I think the stances maybe need to be a little bit more fluid. Maybe they need to just... I don't know. I'm just an average dude. I don't really know, you know, game dev or game design, but I think they just need to be a little bit more fluid there. All right, so that was all the questions we got through, guys. That was the video for the Stug. I hope you liked it. I think at the end I got like 458, if I remember correctly. 458 kills in 10 minutes, you know, so slightly weaker than the Tord Incarnin. Yeah, that's my objective opinion there, is slightly weaker than the Tord Incarnin for the Stug. So, if you liked the video, guys, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing. Or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And thanks for watching, guys, and thank you for your continued support. You guys have a great day. Bye.